Welcome back, bookworms. This is Mrs. K. I'm glad you could join me. A fisherman and his wife want a child more than anything in the world, and one day while the fisherman is out on his boat, their wish comes true. But as the years go by, Marella, their beloved daughter, has a secret longing, a longing that will lead the fisherman and his wife to a heartbreaking decision. Let's enjoy the magic of reading as we read together Child of the Sea, written by Maxine Rose Schur and illustrated by Milanka Reardon, and see how this fabulous original folktale about the power of love ends. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? Look at the dolphins and the seal. Oh, these pretty fish. There once lived a fisherman and his wife who longed to have a child, yet they grew old and their dearest wish did not come true. One morning, the fisherman was out on the sea in his little boat when he felt something bouncing in his net. It was the most beautiful fish he had ever seen. Its eyes were the color of the summer sky, and its scales were gold like the waves at eventide. Isn't she gorgeous? The old fisherman couldn't wait to show his wife this fabulous fish, so he put it in his bucket and rowed back to shore. He was nearly home when he heard a giggle coming from the bucket. Looking in, he saw the fish was no longer a fish, but a baby girl. Ah, he thought, the sun is playing the trickster with my old eyes. He turned away, took a few slow breaths, then turned back. The little girl gave him a shy smile. For certain you're truer than a trick, he laughed, and you have touched my heart with your pretty ways. When he reached the shore, he gently lifted the child out of the bucket and carried her all the way home. Isn't she cute? We are blessed, his wife sang joyfully when she saw the baby. They decided to keep the child and they named her Merella. But the fisherman was worried. Looking at his new daughter, he said, I remember many a story of enchanted sea creatures that can turn into humans, but after a time, they all want to go back to the sea in their fish form. Silly sea stories, his wife exclaimed. Husband mine, you cannot honestly believe this babe could be one of those. Mind what I say, the fisherman warned. We need to be watchful. The girl must be kept away from the sea so that if she is one of those, she can never return. Hearing the force of his words and seeing his troubled face, the wife began to understand her husband knew the truth about such things. She accepted this truth and clasped the baby closer to her. So Merella grew up with her parents beyond the dunes away from the sea. The cottage was her home and the woods her playground. Morella's loving parents never told her where she came from, and the ocean, even a glimpse of it, was forbidden. Yet when she sat with her father mending nets, she could smell the briny creatures of the deep. And at berry gathering time, when she skipped ahead of him in the woods, she hummed the rolling sea melodies she heard him sing. The years passed swiftly as shadows. One warm night, Merella dreamt she heard a voice faintly calling her, Daughter of the water. She awoke. The damp, salt air blew into her room, and in the distance, she heard the lonely cry of a seal. She longed to go to the forbidden sea. Surely it will do me no harm to just look, she reasoned as she climbed out her window. She ran along the dunes, following the sound of the waves. Suddenly, on a cliff, there it was, the sea. It was like a vast dark coverlet trimmed with white lace, tucked into the corners of the earth. Moonlight shimmered on the sea, looking to her as if lighting a path to the far away. The ocean was the biggest and most beautiful thing Marella had ever seen. For a long time, she watched the waves lapping the shore in rhythm with her own breath. Isn't that pretty? Morella's mind danced with 100 questions. She had seen the fish her father had caught, but now she thought about the fish alive and in the sea. How did they swim? How did they breathe? Were there trees in the sea? Was there light? I wish I could know the sea, she thought, and something murmured in a rippling voice. Daughter of the water, child of the sea, come into the ocean, for here you must be. As if in a dream, Marella hurried down to the beach and stepped into the water. The little waves that lapped at her feet were like playful puppies welcoming her home. She walked farther from shore. The ocean enfolded her into its cold currents, but she did not feel cold. There's that fish again. Slick as a seal, she dove beneath the surface. She saw the deep sea below was just as beautiful as the sea above. She felt as if she were in a new, wondrous world. In the water, everything moved. The waves pushed and pulled. The plants floated and fluttered. And the life of the ceaselessly traveling fish seemed to her one great journey. Look at the fish hanging around her. Many times her father had warned that the ocean could drown her, but now she could swim. Feeling stronger than ever before, Marella rose to the surface and dropped down under again. She dove to the sandy floor to tease the lobsters, then drifted through the seaweed. Letting the current carry her along with friendly dolphins. I would love to swim with dolphins. I bet some of you would too. Finally, toward dawn, she swam ashore. She was happy and ran all the way home. Each night, Marella returned to the sea, and each night she could stay underwater longer than the night before. In time, the sea was the only place she wanted to be. During the day, she dreamed of its flowing world, and in the evening, when the moon was a glowing pearl, she sang happily as she waited for night. When she sang, the old couple would smile at one another. Morella's voice seemed as lovely as a fairy's, soft and sweet as her voice, and, even when distant, sounded near, like the sound from a seashell you hold to your ear. Have you guys ever done that before? I have. It sounds pretty. One night, returning from the sea, Marella felt weak. Her legs tingled and her head ached. The next night, after her swim, she felt even weaker. Her legs wobbled. She gasped for each breath. The third night, she was so ill, when she got home, she collapsed on her bed. Marella loved her mother and father, so knowing her strength was ebbing, she made a vow. I will never go back to the sea. Yet there was nothing she more dearly wanted than to return. Oh boy. When the old couple found her the next morning, she was lying still as stone. Heavens preserve us, the fisherman's wife wailed. Marella is sick. Perhaps she has the chilblains or the gripe. Heavens preserve us. The old fisherman looked closely at Marella. He saw her skin had turned dry, and when he heard her breathe, it was a sound he knew well. It was the sound of a fish taken from water. She is homesick, he said. Homesick? His wife exclaimed. Fish feathers! She is home! Uh-oh. Roughly wiping the tears from his eyes, the fisherman lifted his frail daughter and moved toward the door. What are you doing? His wife cried. A tempest is nearing. She'll catch her death. No, my love, she will not, for Merella is a child of the sea. At these words, his wife began to cry, but when the fisherman kissed her forehead, she whispered, I know. The fisherman carried Marella into the storm, stumbling over the dunes. The sky was one dark cloud. The cold wind blew sand into his face, and he often had to stop to catch his breath. When he reached the shore, the sea was like a breathing thing, yet he walked into the roiling water. All around him, waves swirled, making the sound of whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. "You're whispering!" the old man cried in anguish. "You're whispering secrets I'll never know!" His strong hands trembled as he held his daughter just above the lapping waves and let her gently slip into the sea. She sank beneath the water, and for a few moments the old man feared he was wrong. But then he saw the glint of a gold fin cutting through the rolling swells before disappearing beneath the waves. Oh. The tides come in and the tides go out, yet on those evenings when the moon is glowing pearl, there comes a song from the sea, and then the fisherman and his wife make their way to the shore to find, like a hand waving, a gold fin rising. They hold one another and listen, for though far away, her voice seems so near, like the sound from a seashell you hold to your ear.
If you enjoyed this story, please check it out at your local library or buy a copy from your favorite bookstore.